Coach, to start us off, summary of the two tests. In your own words, how would you summarize our performance?
Just so far off the mark, you know. The gulf between the teams is just huge at the moment, and obviously the results showed that, the performances showed that. We've got a lot of work to do, unfortunately.
And looking back at the two tests, which is a big versus South Africa, and these particular two versus New Zealand. The first test we always lose by a big margin, but not as big as the second test. Second test versus South Africa, we lost by an innings. Similarly here, first one we lost by 9 wickets. This one we lose by an innings, and Zimbabwe's heaviest defeat. Is it mental fatigue? The players playing too many games in short spaces of time, or it's just two very good opponents out there?
Probably a combination of both. I mean, actually, if you think about it, the same thing happened against Afghanistan. So the first test against Afghanistan, we competed and we played really well and we drew that game. And then the second test we lost. So there's definitely a trend within that. I definitely think it's a combination of the two. The opposition wearing you down ruthlessly, relentlessly. And then I do think fatigue. From what I'm hearing, this is the most amount of cricket that Zimbabwe has played ever over a period, and it's been against high quality opposition, and I think eventually that sort of has just drained the players, which is what we saw over the last few days.
As much as the opposition might be that good or better than us, but people expecting a fight to really put in a hard performance. But really, when we look at it, they're only a sparing number of individuals that really put in the grip. Where are we losing the mark?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think you can certainly see where players have shown character and where other players haven't. I'm not going to go and name names in that, but it's glaringly obvious, And there's a reason this is called Test cricket, because it's the greatest test. It's going to test you both from a physical and a mental point of view. And you can certainly see the mental side of those players that have not shown fight and those that have. Again, that's got to come from within, that determination, that pride, that willingness to go the extra mile, to take yourself out of your comfort zone. You could see, just use Devon Conway as a good example, actually, the way he was willing to take a few body blows. But at the end of the day, he walks away with a big 100. So it's that willingness to put yourself out there and get out of your comfort zone for your team. And I think that's the big thing. They're playing for their team, not for themselves. And you can see when players play for themselves and when they play for the team.
So some people say the head coach usually is one of those that gets into the players' head and helps them to motivate them. Do you feel like there's some players not being able to get it through to them so that whatever little bit of motivation they have comes out when they come to?
Yeah, look, I think at this level you shouldn't have to motivate a player. The player should be self-motivated to go and perform for his country, But certainly as a coach, you start questioning yourself and saying, geez, what are we doing wrong here? How are we not getting more out of the players? How are we not getting the best out of the players? At the same time, we also understand that, like we said, the opposition is as good as it's going to get, and that it sometimes it takes time, and we keep saying learn the lessons, and we're not seeing the lessons being learned. But like I've also mentioned before, we might only see it in a year's time, in 2 years' time, in 3 months' time. You don't actually know when it all sinks in. So we still got to remain patient with the group, because they are up against it, and it has been hard in terms of the continuous, like I said, the continuity of high-level opposition week in, week out, where you're under pressure continuously, So yeah, it's there's always a fine line, isn't there?
And then now we're going to have some time off, not that much, because you've got Sri Lanka coming up, going into a different series, the qualifiers coming along quickly. Is it sort of a relief that it's a different format, and speaking also to a slightly different couple of type of players, that are maybe to get to have different challenges?
Yes, I think it it's not easy to say it's a relief, but I think it certainly is. I think will be a refresher, just to go into a different format, a format that we last played when did we play Ireland? In February, in terms of the ODIs. To have 2 ODIs would be nice. And obviously we had played decent ODI one international cricket prior to us beating Ireland. And yeah, bring new fresh blood into the group. New energy is always good. And obviously the shorter format, it naturally brings that energy in any case. So we are looking forward to it. This has been extremely difficult, but I'm still positive that like I said, if we're patient, the results will show. It might not be now, but I'm positive moving forward into Sri Lanka, and the qualifiers, which we know is the main goal. That for us is the big one. And I think these tough moments do stand you in good stead as long as you stay motivated, like we speak about, to keep your head held high. We've got to go out there when we're playing those qualifiers, like New Zealand has come out against us here, with the same attitude. Like South Africa played us with that same attitude. That's the attitude we've got to bring to qualifiers when we're playing lesser teams. We've got to believe and show them that they're a long way below us. That's our attitude.
So, final question for me. Played 3 of the top 5. Do you see that for the group that you have, that this is an aspirational? They've seen something. This is where they're supposed to go, or could there be a case of some players beginning to feel a little sorry for themselves?
Yeah, so that has to be, you spot on there, Larry. That's exactly what it has to be. This is where they need to aspire to be. They need to be observing the way the top teams and top players go about the business, the hunger they have, the respect for the game they have. You can see the way they bat, that every run, every test run means so much to them, and they respect every ball that they're involved in. So I certainly hope that our players are observing and learning from the opposition, as much as obviously their mistakes. But I think that is a huge positive that comes out of playing these opposition, is that you do observe and hopefully, take note of the behaviours that they're witnessing from the opposition.
We see the return of Brendan Taylor into international cricket and in Zimbabwean colours. There were a lot of critics about his return, in particular talking in reference to the amount of time that he spent away from the game. What impact has he had in the team from a coach's perspective?
Yeah, I think it's been brilliant having him here, to be honest. He's been superb. His attitude is unbelievable. You can see he's really humble, and grateful to be in our space and the environment again. And I think, like we talk about behaviours from the opposition, he's actually shown our guys those behaviours. He's in the nets first thing in the morning, before everyone else gets here, he's hitting balls with the batting coach. Now, even when the game's done at lunch, he wanted to go hit balls. He wants to improve, He's constantly striving to improve, to sort of master his art. And, that doesn't just happen. It takes work. And I think he's showing our group the work that is required to actually get to a certain level. He's also obviously extremely knowledgeable. He's got good experience, and you can see the way he's interacting with the group and trying to give as much knowledge as he can. So I think he's been a brilliant addition so far. It's been really good to see, to be honest.
And lastly, from me, on the same note, we're also seeing Graham Primo also putting up his hand, trying to return to being up for selection for the side. What does this speak of the current crop of young players that you have versus the old guard, as to saying that, hey, I think I am getting better, or I should be considered?
Yeah, look, again, I think we've got to be patient with the young guys. They're learning their art at international cricket, which is difficult. It is difficult. And if you look at, let's say Devon Conway, because I've spent a bit of time with Devon. I've worked with him when he stayed in South Africa. And, if you think of Devon as a 21-year-old, he was fighting to get his place in the provincial team, in and out of like the provincial team in Gauteng. Trying to work his way into that side, where you've got like a young Bennett at the same age who's now having to learn his craft at the highest level against the very best opposition. So, it takes time. Like a Vincent, if we talk about the same skill set as obviously Graham. Vincent, if you look at his career, he hasn't played a lot of cricket. He's a young cricketer. Even if he's 27 years old, he's still a young cricketer in terms of his development. So if you had to compare him to Graham at a similar stage in their careers, they're probably not going to be a big difference. So, but obviously competition for place is healthy, and hopefully it drives the youngsters or the younger guys to actually work harder. Which is obviously what we've been speaking about as well. They need to work harder. There's no shortcuts to success. There's no shortcuts to being the best in the world. It comes from hard work. And that competition for place hopefully does that and inspires that. Cool.